Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of The Turning Point. It's great to be with you all. Today's discussion, we're going to cut right through the noise because the markets are once again revealing the true nature that most analysts continue to avoid and most institutions hope you don't understand. Over the last 48 hours, we just witnessed another $140 billion quietly move through the system. My figures might be wrong. It could be a lot higher as of this morning. But this is overall being pushed in the same liquidity channels that have defined every major wealth transfer over the last, 100 years or so. Basically, the cycles are predictable not because the markets are logical, but because they're distorted, and the incentives behind them never really change. Every time we see some turbulence hit the mainstream news, same playbook gets deployed, and once again, the people closest to the money, that's the ultra wealthy, the politically connected, the institutional gatekeepers, are the first to profit, while inflation keeps rising for the middle class, while credit card borrowing hits all-time highs. Layoffs keep continuing to accelerate across tech, retail, and manufacturing. And of course, again, we keep seeing the richer get rich, and not because they are smarter or more talented, but simply because they're plugged into the system before any of these moves begin to happen. They get the signal, they get the liquidity, and then they get the advantage. Everyone else gets the volatility. Anyways, now the public is being told that this is going to be stabilized. The Trump administration is now trying to get the Fed to lower rates and so forth. But let's just be honest. This is not stability. This is liquidity-driven manipulation dressed up as monetary policy. Edo, let's get your take on everything, and we'll kind of bounce back and forth off each other.
Welcome, everyone. I'm just fixing my camera here. I was with the wrong one. That's why you see a different angle right now. I was saying that was blurry. Anyways, well, there is a lot to talk. We're going to try to wrap up today. We got some feedback that sometimes the turning point is too long, and I know people have very busy schedules nowadays, so we're going to try to keep this up to 45 minutes. We're going to try to be more concise, and considering just me and Versan, I think that's definitely possible. Now, the first thing I want to bring here, it's Bitcoin charts. So we have the BTC charts right here on the screen, and I have to be very honest with you all. It's quite concerning. What I see right now with the crypto markets, and specifically talking about Bitcoin, it's very concerning. The first reason is because we see that every time the S&P is moving up, that's doing nothing for the overall crypto markets. But whenever the S&P 500 is moving down, that's like provoking catastrophic consequences, just like we are seeing with price action on the cryptocurrencies today. Now, of course, we expect at some point a decouple from XRP versus the overall markets, and we have spoke about this many times. However, right now we have to be honest, and most digital assets are still following the trend, and that's why we have seen massive corrections, not only for Bitcoin, as you see here the charts, but also for XRP, XLM, and most digital assets are still tied to BTC, with exception, of course, as I have mentioned in the past. And I'm going to get there. We're going to talk about SHX again, which usually the micro caps, coins that have a very tiny market cap, they are not tied to BTC on the same way. Now, I have to repeat this every time because we have people that are new to the channel. So I ask patience for the ones that watch us on a regular basis. But the first thing to understand is that this cycle has been synthetic cycle. We have very little volume compared to the previous cycle. So this has been somehow an artificial cycle. There are many reasons. I will not spend 20 minutes explaining. I highly recommend you to watch our previous episodes if you are new to the channel. However, what I see here with BTC is as follows. We have this retest zone, which stands about $98,000. So it's definitely possible we might retest $98,000, and that's when I'm gonna be looking for perhaps short the markets. I even plan to short BTC there. This is not a financial advice. I'm just opening up what's my strategy right now, and right now we are on this area here. So we are at $85,000, I guess, right now. So this is my zone where I'm doing nothing. I'm not selling here. I'm not buying the dip this time. I have seen too many weakness on the overall charts right now. So I'm not buying right now. And what is very concerning, and this is where I mark here on the chart, is called the danger zone. And the danger zone is that we have this major support level at $74,000. However, here is where it gets dangerous. $74,436,000. That's the MicroStrategy average purchase price for BTC. So it means that most of their BTC were accumulated at this range. Why is this so dangerous? Not only from the technical analysis perspective, and just to clarify, I am not a huge fan of technical analysis. And as a matter of fact, 90% of anyone doing TA on YouTube was completely wrong this cycle. We here on the Turning Point, we have focused on the macro scenario more than on the technical analysis. Now, TA is a small piece of the puzzle, but it's also something to consider. Of course, we have to look for the macro scenario, but on this particular case, there is this very concerning situation because not only 74,000 is the support levels on the chart, but it's also very close to MicroStrategy average price. Right now on X, there are confirmations that MicroStrategy could be forced to sell BTC in case of the price falling from this zone. So we can really have some apocalyptic event in crypto if we lose these support levels, because that would also trigger MicroStrategy to dump BTC on the open markets. This is no longer a speculation. I'm going to bring something up, so just give me 1 second. And as you can see here, that's already confirmed. This is indeed my Twitter account that's still suspended, but yes, I can still read things on Twitter. That's funny. So strategy says they will sell their BTC if its stocks falls below MNAV and fresh capital dries up. So there is this systemic threat for Bitcoin right now. I'm definitely not optimistic for the short term. Of course, regaining $98,000 could signal invalidation of the current bearish predictions that I am making here. Of course, we have also to watch for the macro scenario. I think we have a rate cut happening next week. Do you confirm that, Versan? I'm not so updated.
I mean,
is there any?
Yeah. Oh my God, there's so much to unpack. Listen, we already know how this is going to play out. The Federal Reserve is going to lower rates. Liquidity is going to be injected into the system again. Asset prices are going to inflate again. And the very same people who triggered this imbalance are going to be the first to benefit from the rebound. And this is just how the cycle is. It's always been the same way. And of course, unless you understand what's happening beneath the surface, you end up participating in the same game, but from the losing side. And to your point, the hard truth is this is really moments where real wealth is created and real wealth is destroyed. This is where separation happens. And when the system contracts, like what we're seeing today, this is when opportunities begin to expand, but only if you're prepared, educated, and of course, emotionally resilient enough to take and stomach the volatility and of course, take advantage of what you see happening. That's why you got to keep dry powder aside. So yes, I confirm.
I 100% agree with you, Versan. There are going to be, in my opinion, and this is not a financial advice, but I think we're going to have massive buying opportunities for the overall crypto markets. Now, I don't see any point on buying BTC, even if it drops another 20 or 30 or who knows how much percent. But I am 100% convinced we're going to have good buying opportunities with SHX, with XLM, which is already very cheap. I think XLM has been at discounted prices for a long time. So perhaps you don't want to wait too long for XLM, but there is definitely more room for corrections looking at the overall markets right now. I'm not optimistic on the short term. I do think we can have further downside movements, but with that also comes opportunity. I want to take a moment to talk about SHX, and please guys, let me know in the comments if you have watched our live streaming last week, because that was fantastic. I think if you took advantage of what we have shared here, I think you had a massive opportunity, because as I have said on the previous turning point, there is this massive opportunity with SHX, because SHX is a micro cap. It's a very slow, sorry, not slow. It's on contrary, it's a very fast asset, but it has a tiny market cap. And that means that whenever there are corrections on the crypto markets, this type of active doesn't work on the same way. So basically, and this has been proven once again, because as last week we were telling you that every time it was arriving at this price range near the bottom, it was going up, and then volatility was playing out and it was going down. And we have traded these assets multiple times during this cycle, and just last week we have done the turning point and the price was exactly here at the bottom, if you remember. And basically this week I did this trade. I hope some of you had the same idea and executed it properly, but I bought at the bottom just like in the previous turning point, and it has doubled the price almost. Literally one day it was up 50%, and the previous day it was up sorry, not 80%, but 30%. So when the markets were recovering, in other words, Bitcoin was going up 4%, XRP went from whatever $2.02 to near $2.15 or $2.20, but SHX has doubled in price, and we were at a downtrend. So just to tell you, even if markets continue to decrease in the next weeks, you also have opportunities with hidden gems, with coins like SHX, with coins like Velo. It's still an opportunity to multiply your capital and to just repeat what we have been telling you on this cycle. Any thoughts on SHX, Versan?
Oh my God. Yeah. Written some detailed articles about this, discussed it thoroughly with you many times. But yeah, it's really, put simply, I think SHX is kind of where the dollar meets crypto at scale. You see compliance where their speed, Ripple and global financial institutions are heavily invested in SHX and their infrastructure, which is very interesting because it's Stellar. It's built on the Stellar network. I do believe SHX is massively undervalued. And obviously, its price is not reflecting its position right now as a regulated bridge between fiat stablecoins and institutional liquidity. And that's tied into another thing I wanted to point out. And this is probably the biggest problem in crypto today, but also the greatest opportunity, because if the entire ecosystem is being held hostage by one's assets volatility, that's Bitcoin, and everything is kind of still coupled to Bitcoin dominance, which is not the future, that means you do have opportunity still and time to invest in assets that have a real use case, right? And I think real adoption is going to start when some of these assets that are valued for utility, liquidity, real world integration, and so forth, not the mood swings of Bitcoin. That is like the turning point for the industry, where someday these assets like XRP, XLM, HBAR, and a few others are going to have to decouple from Bitcoin and finally trade on utility-driven fundamentals. And that's really the ultimate moment where the market actually becomes very real. And that's the moment when institutions begin to really step in. And that's where we move from speculation to infrastructure. I don't think we're there yet. We still have a long way to go. I've seen on X recently a lot of people saying Operation Choke Point 3.0. And this is kind of funny because a few months ago on X, I did mention that we're seeing Operation Choke Point 2.0 when Tether announced their new stablecoin. So it's really an obvious attempt to get ahead of regulatory scrutiny. And ultimately, what's going to cause this decoupling I really believe later on down the road, I don't know when, but it's going to be the stablecoin market because they're not audited, they're not regulated, despite how they want to sugarcoat it. Um, it's eventually going to implode, and when it does, it's going to take most of the ecosystem down with it. And that's not speculation. That's a fact. It's just we don't know when they're going to pull that card. So back to your point on SHX, massively undervalued. So much opportunity to get in real utility-driven assets, and of course, just be patient. Let the macro setup unfold and work for you.
Well, I 100% agree, and we have to talk about the decouple. I think that's 100% going to happen. I don't see a future, and just let's bring just the two of us back here to the camera.
Well,
so
I'm not
I don't see yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
We miss you on camera, but anyways, I don't see a future where an asset that is designed to become a world reserve asset like XRP, a bridge mechanism between multiple currencies that's set to replace nostro-vostro accounts. There is no way in the future XRP is going to be still tied to BTC volatility. Can you imagine in the future the IMF, the Bank of International Settlements, all making their plans public, which they do have plans for XRP? And can you imagine XRP trading at 3, 4, or 5 digits, yet still following BTC volatility, meaning BTC drops 10% and XRP drops 8 or 10%. This will not be a reality in the future. I am 100% convinced. Also, it's not just a matter of my opinion. From a technical perspective, technical reasons, when you have a huge, vast amount of XRP supply, which in my opinion is set to be locked in nostro-vostro accounts, just like they have a basket of international currencies where the banks are basically obligated to hold foreign currencies like Japanese yens or Venezuelan pesos or American dollars or euros. They're going to have the same liability with XRP. That's how I see the future. So the price of an asset really comes down to one simple denominator, and that's buyers versus sellers. And whenever we have this outcome with XRP, where we're going to have a vast amount of buyers, but we're going to have also a huge percentage of the supply, which is going to be being utilized for cross-border payments, and it's going to be utilized replacing nostro-vostro accounts. That's some Ripple white papers, by the way, if you go back 10 years on time when they were to public reveal their plans, you would see that they mentioned that XRP is a liquidity provider for financial institutions. So in that point, when the prophecy really comes true, I don't see I don't see 0.1% chance that XRP is going to be still following the useless coin, also known as Bitcoin. That's 100% a fact.
My God.
Yeah, go ahead, Versam.
I mean, I want to put out a powerful statement, okay? I think when you own XRP, essentially, you're going to become the buyer and lender of last resort, essentially. And I mean, this ties us directly in everything we've been talking about for so many years. You have to, okay, liquidity cycles, market manipulation, global debt, everything that you see happening is all about restructuring the monetary system. If you start to zoom out far enough and look at the bigger picture, all these forces point to an unavoidable conclusion. And that's why I put that tweet out this morning. Over time, gradually, quietly, and then bang, suddenly XRP is going to decouple. And there's definitive proof of this trajectory if you actually understand where the world is heading. Let's kind of like dissect it a bit. Okay, if governments are choking on debt, if inflation is kind of embedded and baked into the cake, you look at the legacy banking friction, which is suffocating because of all this, these expensive fees, and the fact that we have to keep issuing new debt. You're talking about the interest rate that is going to only burden it and accelerate. And that means settlement systems are going to become outdated. That means they're going to become slow, expensive, and fragmented. This is already happening. And it's going to be the very same institutions responsible for moving all of this and kind of getting us to over there This is precisely where XRP enters the equation because, like you said, it's a bridging mechanism in a world where capital has to move instantly across borders with full transparency and no friction in that cost. And when you look at the global financial system, you could see that it's on its way to rewiring itself. And the question then is like, how is it going to rewire itself? And you have to look at these digital assets and acknowledge, their use cases. And only one real asset that can provide a universal liquidity layer without required pre-funding, without intermediaries, and especially without counterparty risk. That is XRP essentially. And we're ultimately watching like the early stages of all this transitioning right now. Again, there's evidence for this. I mean, just look at banks, payment providers, market infrastructure, all these emerging economies and sovereign actors. They're already testing and using the XRPL to move money at speeds where traditional systems can't even match it. But the important thing to understand is that this is about de-dollarization. I don't care how you sugarcoat it with stable coins. It's about de-dollarization. I mean, if all this, these liquidity corridors that used to cost millions now can cost pennies, right? And just the way this is playing out, it's so obvious. And when people ask me like, well, why does the price keep coming down? Yeah, I mean, it's because they still don't understand the difference between utility adoption and speculative coupling, right? As long as these select digital assets are going to be remained tied to these speculative debt-based instruments like Bitcoin, which is driven by the debt market. Okay, that's why every time the market expands, Bitcoin climbs. Whenever the market contracts, Bitcoin shorts. So the entire crypto market is going to be volatile, cyclical, and irrational if it's coupled to it, right? It only makes sense. So I think we're still in a phase where fundamentals are gradually coming into play, and you have to understand liquidity flows and this utility-driven era, but we're not there yet, right? And that's why people panic, about XRP price going up or down. This is why they lose sleep, why they question their decisions and their conviction. It's because they put everything into one basket and don't understand the fundamentals behind it, and they stare at the price instead of the infrastructure. Like, I talk to you about this all the time. I don't even look at the XRP chart anymore. I haven't looked at it in a long time. I don't care what the candle says on a Tuesday. I don't care where the price goes from here. I'm watching where money is moving, where it's coming from. I watch who's adopting what they're adopting, why they're adopting it. I ask the critical questions, and which systems are quietly being built around it behind the curtain. Okay. So that's why I sleep comfortably at night with XRP in my cold storage with my gold and silver at my side, because I understand the bigger picture. I understand the timeline. I understand the macroeconomic forces that are kind of pushing this transition forward. So at the end of the day, utility is going to win, and it's going to have to decouple from something that is tied to a debt-based instrument. It's really that simple. And it's gradual, but we're going to get there eventually.
Yeah, I mean, there's no use case for BTC. And right now it stands 100% contrary to Satoshi's white paper. I don't know how that cannot potentially raise multiple red flags to anyone seeking to buy BTC right now. I think that's the biggest red flag ever. I mean, it's just contrary to the purpose it was initially designed, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And it's not cash. You can't go out and pay for a coffee with BTC. You can't use it for cross-border transactions. So there is this eminent flaw, and that reflects on Strategy's stock. What you see on the screen is not a meme coin that was rugged. That's actually a MicroStrategy stock that's dumping like unprecedented. Is down 60% on the yearly chart. So there are so many red flags. It's even difficult to know where to start from. We can see from the utility perspective, there is no value. There is no utility that's not anything. Anyone can change that. You can't have a developer to come tomorrow and suddenly improve BTC blockchain and make it compete with XRP. That's just not going to happen. And in the same way, we have precious metals that keep rising in price and outperforming even traditional cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Whoever bought gold 1 year ago is outperforming whoever bought BTC just a year ago. So from whatever perspective you want to look at it, at this price action, and I can bring gold's performing extremely well. And Versan, do you want to make some thoughts on price movement for gold and silver? I know you sent me as some of the talking points today.
Yeah, absolutely. But one thing we should also mention about why the market is taking a massive hit is because I'm seeing a lot of information about the Japanese carry trade that's unwinding. Look at the yields in Japan; they're already spiking. Jake Claver has really been ahead of this, so I give him a lot of credit for that. But essentially, that's going to force capital to rush back home, and that's why you see liquidity exiting some of these markets, because it has to now go to Japan, and it has to be pulled from somewhere, right? And it came from the U.S., the U.S. equities, crypto, and it's funny because another card was just played, another narrative was deployed, another predictable move in an unpredictable market. And whenever there's a major move in the market, they have all these cards ready to go just to justify what they orchestrated days or weeks in advance. So, give a lot of credit to Jake for that. He was really ahead. But gold and silver, this is where I think reality starts to speak louder than the narrative. Gold is doing exactly what it has to do, as it's always done. Whenever money supply keeps expanding, whenever debt keeps exploding, and again, the interest burden behind it keeps accelerating. And that's baked into the cake, right? These are not temporary trends. These are permanent. They're structural. They're, again, baked into the cake. So that's why gold continues to climb. It's really a sovereign asset. It's outside of a system that continues to devalue itself, and it has no counterparty risk. So gold doesn't need a yield. It doesn't need hype. It simply reflects the truth about the system that they're trying to hide. Silver is following the very same mechanics, just with stronger momentum. Industrial demand keeps rising because of electronics, digitization, infrastructure, advanced manufacturing needs. The supply is tightening, right? So the market is just reacting to all of that. And the fact that also inflation is really high and real yields are falling, that's typically when capital rotates into hard assets. And of course, silver is very cheap. It's undervalued. It's also structurally required. In my opinion, it complements gold in many ways. So you definitely need some physical assets in your portfolio. And here's the other geopolitical kicker that, of course, the mainstream is going to downplay. But the rest of the world is actually cornering the gold market. And if you look at the East, like China, the Middle East, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, they're really loading up on metals at historic levels. And there is a de-dollarization trend happening in real time still, even though the US will downplay it. And basically what they're doing is cornering the United States Treasury market in a very vulnerable position. And that's exactly why they tried to rush the Genius Act stablecoin bill, because it's a lifeline, just buying more time to stabilize confidence, the illusion, and create the control bridge into a digital form of money. And I think that's XRP, that bridge currency we talked about. But when you kind of put all these pieces together, the gold accumulation is a result of the debt spiral that it's getting out of control. That's all. So it's really the system trying to manage its own decline. But that's why you need hard assets.
100% agree, Versan. And this chart of gold here illustrates everything that you just said. You can see that from the past year, and we can even go further, the past 2, 3, 4 years when this trend really started, central banks have been accumulating large sums of golds. And that's why you can't really see any big correction on the chart, because they basically creating this floor. Whenever price of gold decreases slightly, they are just buying, and they keep buying, and they keep buying, and they are just basically doing the opposite of what they did in the 80s and the 90s when they were the greatest net sellers of gold. That was the trend, and that's why we had a much stronger dollar, for instance, and what's happening today is exactly the opposite. So you see that central banks are buying massive amounts of gold. I see someone mentioning Tether, USDT. We can also discuss about that in a second. I just saw that on the comments, and it's very important that you brought USDT to the conversation. And what I see right now, and it's even related, that's why I decided to take this comment to the discussion, because I was hearing some rumors that even Tether is attempting to buy gold. So that really signals that they are holding to useless fiat currency. And in the case of USDT, well, if you have a bad version of the dollar, which is paper dollars, you have an even worse version, which is called USDT. And we can talk about USDT in a second. Now, just my final thoughts here on gold. And this is not a financial advice, because I know a lot of people ask me, what is a good entry for gold, right? Are we going to have a massive correction, so you're going to have an entry point? Well, I don't think so. And we have been talking here on the turning point since gold was 70 or 60% cheaper. And the trend right now is that gold is going to keep increasing as far as central banks keep accumulating large sums of gold, just like Russia did. Russia is a great example. The central bank of Russia has bought massive amounts of gold when they were kicked out of SWIFT. So they also used that as a mechanism to circumvent the US sanctions. But it's not only the Russian central bank. That's basically whenever you look for central banks around the world, they all following the same strategy. You don't have a central bank that you say, okay, this central bank is offloading their gold position. Is quite the opposite. Everyone is buying gold. So there is a reason for that. It's not driven by retail sentiment. Nobody cares about retail on the gold markets, but it's mostly about central banks. Now, Versan, do you want to share some thoughts about Tether?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Tether, buying gold is, number one, a red flag. It also signals that they know the dollar is losing its dominance. Their promise to maintain parity with the dollar depends entirely on U.S. treasuries, which themselves, the treasuries are increasingly like more fragile, over leveraged. And again, this is kind of the classic Ponzi structure, because the assets that are backing these stable coins are toxic if the system fails, right? And when that moment does come, I mean, this is what Jim Rickards said the other day. I'm actually going to post the tweet later on and try to explain it a bit. But he confirmed exactly what we're talking about here. Basically, that the synthetic dollar proxies that are tied to these stablecoins are going to be the next trigger for a global liquidity crisis, or trigger a next collapse, he said, because he explained that stablecoins in the current form are essentially a dollar derivative. And that is essentially designed, like we've been talking about, really, to keep liquidity flowing into the crypto ecosystem while masking the demise of the dollar. And of course, the fact that confidence in US dollars is only going down, there's going to be a chain reaction, and liquidity will dry up, markets could crash, and those relying on the illusion of stability because of stable coins will be left exposed. It's crazy. It really is, because I can't believe how people don't really see this. I'm just glad our audience does. But the takeaway is very clear. Real money is moving into hard sovereign assets, and that's gold, that's silver, just other hedges out there, XRP. These are for the digital ecosystem. But you want to do everything you can to protect yourself against the collapse of fiat currency and unbacked digital substitutes like stable coins. So stable coins, I mean, even in the name, calling it a stable coin, I mean, that alone sets the stage for what people are going to believe. I get attacked up for this all the time. And I don't care if the dollar is still the medium of exchange today, but structurally, I think it's finished as a store of value. And that's what the wealthy are doing. They're preparing for this inevitable shift, and so should we.
You are muted, Versan.
I'm sorry?
No, you have been muted for a couple of seconds, but yeah, we got you back now.
Oh, well, I was just saying, real money is moving into hard sovereign assets like gold, silver. I was saying I don't really care if people say dollar is king. Sure, it'll be medium of exchange, but structurally, I think it's finished as a store of value. And that's what the rich are doing. And we talk to a lot of very wealthy clients who support our show, what we're doing here. And that's what they're doing. Some of our clients have $30 million. First question I ask them is, what the hell are you talking to me for? But it's because they trust us, and that's important. But that's what we learn from them. So if the rich are doing this, maybe we should, right?
Well, if central banks are doing something, that's surely something I also want to copy their strategy. And precious metals were just a proof. Now, I'll bring something that we already shared here, but I think it's always a good opportunity. And that's USDT Tether white paper. And there is this very particular page, which happens to be page 5 of Tether white paper. Just a second, I'm trying to bring it here.
Yep.
Yeah,
I need to go bankrupt.
Yes. That's for anyone that is new to the channel, so you can fully understand. This is not a conspiracy theory. I mean, this is on Tether's white paper. You can just Google it. You just Google Tether white paper, and you come right here. Sorry, I said page 5. It's actually page 10, and it really comes. Let me zoom this a little bit more. And it's about implementation weaknesses. We understand that our implementation doesn't immediately create a fully trustless cryptocurrency system. So here they actually mention some of the risks. And the first one is that we could go bankrupt. So have this in mind. Second one is our bank could go insolvent. And honestly, the third one and the fourth actually really blows my mind. When I found about this, I was literally in shock. So number 3 comes, our bank could freeze or confiscate the funds. And here comes the best one. We could abscond with the reserve funds. So, well, I'm not a native English speaker. So the first time I heard this word abscond, I had to check for the meaning. And when I actually checked what it really means, in other words, they could simply vanish with everyone's funds, with the reserve funds.
Yep.
You really understand that they are making this public for everyone. So I think the collapse of USDT is something that can still play out and can also be one of the catalysts for this massive transition when large sums of capital are going to flow towards the real ecosystem. And I'm talking about the XRP ledger. And perhaps that's going to be the day where Bitcoin is going to crash massively, not a 20% correction, but perhaps a perpetual catastrophic crash on the charts. And one of the reasons, because BTC is mostly backed by nothing. In other words, it's backed by Tether, but Tether is not even backed by real dollars. When you see their dollar reserves, it's less than 20% of the total holdings of their total USDT. And interesting, they follow a very similar way of printing money. They actually copy the Federal Reserve. So if dollar continuously gets devaluated, you can expect the same for USDT. And Versan, why don't you share some thoughts about Tether?
Yeah, Tether is the black swan of crypto overall. I mean, again, they have so many unverified holdings and assets when it comes to the treasuries. And I think when the next liquidity crunch hits, they're going to get exposed. And the truth has been very simple for a very long time. They're just structurally insolvent. And sure, they can disguise it, but those who truly understand, the cracks are there, and it's inevitable. When confidence fails, and it will, billions of dollars are going to evaporate virtually overnight. It's going to trigger a cascade of liquidations across the crypto markets. Most of them will collapse, And of course, all that money is going to be consolidated into something that meets compliance. You can even look at MicroStrategy as a case study, like how crypto has been hijacked overall by both hype and the illusion of institutional backing. If I'm not mistaken, like their Bitcoin purchases were like lauded as what smart corporate treasury management, but in reality, that's absolute BS. It's really an amplification of the risk inside the market already deeply manipulated. So if the dollar fails, and I think it will, the leveraged positions like these are going to, really go under a microscope, and the fallout will be severe. And again, just crypto has been hijacked for years, for so long. And what started as a vision of decentralization, it's been repurposed now to serve as a speculative instrument, and Tether, no doubt, is an unregulated financial vehicle. And of course, we talked about the revolving door between the bond market and what they were doing. I mean, the rabbit hole goes pretty damn deep. Um, but I think all these leverage instruments are just dominating the narrative right now, because if you listen to some of the people on X or on some of the other YouTube channels, I mean, it's quite clear. Most people don't know what the hell they're talking about. And Tether will fail. I think the illusion of liquidity is going to collapse eventually. And the crypto narrative, is going to be, it's going to die. It's just a trend. It's a fad. It really is. The infrastructure, that's a whole different story. Who's going to control the settlement? Who's going to control liquidity and utility? XRP, for example, building that real world infrastructure, bridging legitimate financial flows, and on the other side of this, you have the hype driven markets that are hostage to all of this mismanagement, you could say. It's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, just to remind, MicroStrategy is not even buying BTC with their own money. They are just borrowing it. So it's definitely a very risky strategy. And I don't think this will end well. Now, Versan, we have said today we're going to keep the turning point at 45 minutes. So perhaps we can take the final minutes to answer some of the questions, perhaps 2 or 3 questions, and then we can just wrap on the final thoughts. So do you see any comments here, Versan, that you would like to answer? I am having a look at them right now.
Yeah, somebody asked earlier, I thought it was a pretty good question, about what happens to Bitcoin if Tether goes under. I mean, again, it's all tied together. So like I said just moments ago, there's going to be a cascade of liquidations. So essentially, everything will go down alongside it. And if you look at most crypto assets, it's okay. Most
I did it.
all right.
Sorry.
Yeah, don't worry about it. But most crypto assets are just tied to Tether and some of these stable coins. So if the stable coins fail, crypto fails overall. And I know it's a hard pill to swallow for most people. They keep saying, no, this is the future. And yeah, it's the future, but we're talking about the infrastructure. That's the future, not all this nonsense around it. Listen, I know we go really deep into these conversations, and we talk so much and cover a lot of ground very fast, but the reality is pretty simple. Your strategy to kind of get through all of this doesn't have to be complicated as it is how we describe it. You don't need to memorize all these details. Just have an overall view that you want to own what holds value. You want to understand how money is manipulated. And then, of course, you just want to anticipate and position yourself ahead of these structural shifts. So that's why I keep reiterating, having some gold and silver. At least I done my job, right? I made sure that no matter how this plays out, you're always going to be positioned fine. I have actually built a lot of wealth in crypto, but what have I done? I've rotated it constantly into hard assets. So I really sleep good at night now compared to how I used to a few years ago, knowing that no matter how this plays out, I have cash, I got money in the bank, gold, silver, to barter with. I don't think it would ever come to that, but it's real money, right? It's real. It's something I can see and touch. And I don't know. It's just for most people, I understand that you can't buy gold at $4,000, but if you can have a little bit of discipline into your life and, maybe buy a little bit of gold, like a gram even, and an ounce of silver at least once a month. It will make a very big difference in your life. It really will. And of course, holding utility-driven assets like XRP and other things, including SHX, but just put them aside. And if you see the markets begin to run and ride this train upwards, take profits. Don't be emotional about it. You're not tied to your assets. The idea is to take profits so you can live life and, make good investments and just forget all the noise. Forget the charts, forget the headlines, because that's what the media does, right? They want to spin the narrative to fit the story that they want you to believe. True opportunity is always going to be structural, not speculative. And try to focus on, sovereign hard assets, liquidity, infrastructure, and real world utility. That's all. So I know we cover a lot of ground again, but your core strategy is very simple. Protect your wealth.
I'm with you, Bersan, and I think here on the turning point, we have been very transparent about our strategies. I have said multiple times, we have been trading assets here. I have been buying real estate in Europe. I think that's a safe haven, just like precious metals and silver, gold. And most importantly, understand, yes, the crypto markets are manipulated. However, in each case of manipulation, there is always opportunity. So even if the price goes down, let's say they are suppressing XRP's price and price is dropping another 30 or 40% or whatever in the future, it's always an opportunity to increase your holdings. So I see every drop as an opportunity. And honestly, I have not regretted one time of buying XRP dips on the past 2 years. When you take an average of the XRP price corrections we had in the past. Remember when it was just 70 cents, 60 cents, 50 cents? Well, I think we're going to have similar opportunities, not with XRP. I don't think XRP is going to drop that low, but perhaps SHX, for example. I think buying SHX now is like buying XRP at 50 cents. So there's also good things about price corrections, and that means more opportunity to accumulate real world assets that are going to have a pivotal role on the new financial system. Now, if you ask me, there is a global reset which is happening at a global scale, and we can talk about inflation next week. We can talk about how currencies are getting devaluated, but ultimately there will be also a crypto reset. This cycle has been completely different. I think the reset already has begun, but at the end of the road, everything that doesn't have utility will be wiped out. There is too many coins, too many useless coins on the markets now. All the ERC20 ecosystem, all the coins that doesn't have speeds, they have high transaction fees, they can't compete with the real players. And if there is low liquidity, understand there will be never enough liquidity to recover useless coins that don't have a role on the new financial system. So that being said, if you're going to take risks by increasing your positions, go for assets that have real world utility. Don't go for speculation narratives. Don't go for meme coins. I think that's a big mistake that people still try to do right now.
Yeah, everyone's looking for a quick buck.
Yeah, yeah, they are looking for a quick buck, but in the end of the day, it's like, yes, it is a multidimensional chess game, but it doesn't have to be so complicated. How easy it was in the last 2 years. Just buy XRP at 50 cents and hold. Anyone that did that had massive profits. And it was not by trading. It was not by with high leverage. It was not by taking high risks. It was not by buying everything at once, taking all your money, and then suddenly going all in on XRP. That's also not what we are saying, but consistently buying, even as Versan said, do the same with gold. And I truly believe the window of opportunity is closing.
Yeah,
it's getting more and more difficult for people, for the average person, to make it for a living and have money to invest and rotate on digital assets. So I really say that the window of opportunity is closing, but because we understand this transformation, we still have a fair chance. That being said, I want to send a special thanks for everyone. We have almost 2,000 people watching live right now. Drop a comments of where you are based. That helps us with the algorithm. As we know, more comments will boost the live streaming, and more people are going to have the opportunity to see this episode of the Turning Point. And we're going to see you guys next week. Versan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, Preston Jetter TV, he left a $10 donation. I just want to thank him for that. It's very kind. You don't have to leave donations, but thank you anyways. To your question, he's asking if we're still expecting a little run up into December, beginning of January. Thanks for the feedback. I think we could see further corrections as far as now. There are a lot of liquidations and fear spreading through the market. What else? The fact that Trump is making these announcements. Again, remember, you have to anticipate what they're doing before they start making these announcements. The announcements are kind of anticipating what's going to happen next. So if I were to look at like Trump's statements today about replacing the Federal Reserve, making the announcement, it's going to be somebody that works in his favor, meaning the Federal Reserve is definitely going to lower rates. Liquidity, again, is going to be injected into the system. That's when asset prices are going to inflate again. So this is, again, an opportunity to buy on and just kind of ride the cycle upwards in a different trend. So I think we're just going to see the same thing happen over and over. And the whole idea and mentality is you got to flip the script. You buy when there's fear, you sell when there's euphoria. And that's what I've been doing for a very long time. And it actually works. It does. It took me a while to figure it out. But if you can, like, let's give me an example. If you could concentrate, this is not financial advice, but if you were to concentrate, let's say $10,000 right now into SHX or VLO, just one asset, pick one. And in these dips right now, and it starts to ride up as they're injecting liquidity into the system, as they're making these positive announcements about, hey, we got somebody new for the Federal Reserve. Everyone looks at him and says, oh, it's that guy. Okay. There's bullish sentiment, momentum, euphoria. That's when you start selling. See what I mean? Before,
yes, 100% true, Versan, because usually when we are talking about something, the market's already priced in. So you have to uprun the herd, if I say this correct in English. So, and just a very good example, we spoke about SHX last week. Anyone that had bought this asset last week did at least 2x. If you go back in time, 2 days ago, it was up more than 100%. So despite the massive bearish trend that there is on the markets right now, there's still opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I love the chart you just pulled up, because I do share this in my private sessions with some of my clients, but I'm going to share it publicly. As SHX was going up and down, you just pull up that chart again, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. And kind of zoom in, if you don't mind, on those 3 legs up there. As far as
here,
my apologies. Go back one more time. Yeah. So zoom in right in that area where your cursor is. Like zoom in.
I can't zoom in because it's not trading view is CoinMarketCap. Yeah, it's fine.
You see, we started talking about it in January or February of 2024. I remember, if you go onto the date over there, you don't have to, just leave it alone. But you see those big ups and downs. Oh, go back to all. There you go. The 3 ones that are going up, down, up, down, up, down, right? So that generated me over $200,000. Okay. And that's before taxes. It was a little bit more than that. And my point, though, is that I was able to do all of that with SHX alone. I didn't have to touch my XRP, which is already. And
Versan, sorry to interrupt you, but the best part of doing these trades is that first, you're not taking any big risk. You don't have to go with leverage, where if things go south, you get liquidated and you lose all. Yeah. You don't have to buy a meme coin. Also, it's something important. It will not go to zero. You have to buy an asset that is basically has real world utilities, built on Stellar blockchain. And in the worst case scenario, it will drop and you have to hold. And if it drops more, you just buy more. I mean, it's not a financial advice, but this has been one of the simple strategies this entire cycle. We have spoken about this last week. And I just think it's lovely to share this.
Yeah, I mean, okay, how do you win with SHX? Let's like put this into perspective for people. Number one, let's say it is regulated to a degree. It's backed by IBM. The IMF has already confirmed it. The Bill Gates Foundation, unfortunately. And what else? It was built on Stellar. Stellar's already been decided to be a part of the monetary system. So how do you win with SHX? First of all, it's cheap. So you factor in inflation when you're buying these assets. So how do you win again? Regulatory adoption can certainly push it higher. That's good. The other thing is artificial liquidity injections. That's kind of everything we've been talking about. Expanding money supply, contracting money supply. We're talking about QE, stable flows, debt purchases, et cetera, et cetera. That creates a predictable short-term surge. So either way, your risk is far lower with SHX than those holding blindly like meme coins. And inflation has to force them to sell, right? Or just holding all your bags in XRP, for instance. So I've been applying that approach. And the fact that it's being adopted into the new infrastructure means you could win. But hey, if they're not going to adopt it yet, we're talking about that utility phase. That's going to be later on down the road. Well, okay, then we know they're going to keep injecting money into the system. Therefore, it's going to go higher. So you treat it like a trade. And you have your long-term position for SHX that you don't touch. But if you concentrate like $10,000, I was saying, or five, and you start somewhere small, even $3,000, it doesn't matter. And you keep playing that cycle back and forth, your return on investment outweighs inflation. It also outweighs the tax you have to pay on it. And you pay your damn taxes if that is the case indeed. All right. Personally, with all the taxes, tax dollars going to Ukraine, the Afghanis, the Taliban, like I don't like to pay taxes. And I don't know if you remember, Edo, might as well share this because we have a lot of new subscribers now. But in 2022, I think, or 2023, I told the whole community on live here that I was not going to pay my taxes that year. Do you remember that, Edo?
Yes, I
And then
remember.
guess what happened to me? I didn't pay my taxes. I listened to everybody that said common law this, common law that. You don't have to pay your taxes. And believe me, I knew how to play this. Okay. And I got penalized in 2024 or 2025. I got penalized with a $6,000 penalty just because I listened to those idiots. All right. So I tested it out. You do get penalized if you don't pay your taxes. They will come after you. They will confiscate it. So back to my point, if you're playing this SHX game, you could pay your taxes and still walk away with a lot of profit. And you can rotate a portion of that into gold and silver, and you can rotate the rest of the portion on the dips on the way back down. Keep doing this and repeat the cycle. The more money you have, you could do it with SHX and you can do it with VLO. Okay. So you have to have
Absolutely.
discipline and forget about the long-term stuff. Utility is going to play out regardless how you see it. It's going to happen. It's just we don't know when. So until then, I filter out all the noise and I just focus on how can I make more money to outpace inflation.
To outpace inflation and also to increase our long-term holdings, or to buy more gold, to buy more
You're
silver.
basically buying time.
That's the game we have been playing. And yes, I love this comment here. Someone says that he did a calculation, and 1,000 SHX right now costs $11. So it's just insane. It's just one example. Anyways, thank you, everyone. We said we would keep it 45 minutes. We are about to hit 1 hour. It's okay. Anyways, thank you, everyone. And yeah, we're going to see you next Monday.
Thank you all. And please help me get to 100,000 subscribers. I'm going to throw a party.
I'm going to give you a call when I see that
man. I mean, I've been at this for 7 years. I got my YouTube channel taken down. I've contributed so much value to this ecosystem, and I'm just grateful for all the support. I hope we can get to 100,000.
Oh yeah, that's gonna happen very soon, man. Versan is at 96.6 thousand subs. I think within a month, that's definitely possible.
Yeah, I can't believe it. And I've had like Robert Kiyosaki on my show. I've had Matthew Piepenberg. I've had all these like good, informed analysts, and we can't even get to 100K. I don't know. I think it's the algorithm, man, because the subjects we cover.
Yes, yes, we get censored a lot. This is true. The information gets suppressed. Well, I'm the living proof. I lost 200,000 followers on Twitter. But yes, it's almost a full-time job. You know, people think it's easy to build a large audience, but it's a lot of work, guys. Behind the scenes, you have no idea how difficult it is to keep going with YouTube. It's a lot of work. So definitely support Versan on his mission. He deserves 100,000. And well, I am very good at predicting crypto market. So I'm gonna throw this one. I predict he's gonna be at 100,000 before 31 of December of this year. I truly believe.
Oh yeah, I can see that too. Anyways, okay,
Yeah.
thank you all. Really, it's just a shit point channel. I love the comments. It makes me. Oh my god, I
Yeah, I
see what
love
they
the
do.
comments.
They
I
hit
wish
the
we had time.
special points. You know.
Yeah, I wish we had time to go through all the comments and honestly answer them all live. Anyways, anyone that watches the repetition and you drop comments, we put our best efforts to answer to the majority of them.
Yeah. Okay, everyone. Take care. Bless you all, and be vigilant.
Yeah. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.